Welcome y'all to another great episode of the Needs to Be Studied podcast. It's your boy Billy the Bad Guy, Billy the Goat, Billy the Kid, Bills, Bills, Bills. And today we have a special episode. And me and this guy was supposed to connect for a minute now, but he's finally here, Sir Marvelous.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me. And like you said, this is definitely overdue. What, like at least about a year and a half now? Some
About a
shit
year
like
and a
that.
half. We always run into each other,
Yeah.
but we here now, so we're gonna make it the best one.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna make sure it's marvelous, baby.
Needs to Be Studied is where we study relationships, dating, sex, mental health, all the above.
Right.
And I've been studying lots and lots of sex.
Okay.
Right? I'm interested because my sex love language is spontaneous.
Okay.
Right? But part of me wants to try something else, like spice it up. I don't have vanilla partners, but I want to be able to, try other things, but I don't know how to communicate what I want to try. I don't know I don't know my pleasure map, you know? So as a pleasure and intimacy coach, I have lots and lots of questions for you today.
Well, I'm excited to get to them.
But I do want to get to know a little bit about you. How did you come in this field?
Wow, that's definitely a long answer. I'm gonna try to shorten it as best I can. I saw that it was a need, right? I come from a background of sales and marketing, and I understand the idea that if something is hard to find, it makes the value of that thing go up, right? And what I realized is that a lot of women were struggling with experiencing pleasure during intimacy. A lot of women struggle with the idea of being in an experience where they don't have to perform, they don't have to act, they don't have to fake orgasms, they don't have to look a certain type of way. They don't know what it feels like to have something solely focused on them. Even now, if you were to survey 10 women, you're like, when's the last time you've had an experience that was just about you? And they can't tell you. It's hard for them to answer that question. And I realized that what I was doing was quite marvelous, no pun intended, right? Because I'm able to provide exploration experiences where a person can have, 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours of just, intense focus on their pleasure without it actually having to engage in sex, without them actually having to perform or do anything. They could just, be prioritized for that moment.
And at what age did you start saying, boom, like, I got this?
So, fun fact, I was about 16, 17, and between 16 and 17, I brought my first sex toy. And I actually bought it by accident. It wasn't intentional at all. I was just looking for a way to last longer in bed. And I went on Google, started Googling stuff, and went down a rabbit hole of reading different blogs written by women complaining about sex with their partners. Some of them were married for multiple years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they all had the same complaint. They weren't having orgasms. And they would reference, using a vibrator or a sex toy to bring them to orgasm when their husband would go to sleep or go to work. And I'm like, what is that? I'm young. I don't know what a vibrator is, so to speak, right? But I kept seeing it. So my inquisitive ass went down to the Village in New York City, stood outside one of them sex toys, and I had some money, and I literally just asked some random stranger, hey, can you buy me a vibrator? He went inside, came back out, passed me a bag. I didn't even know what he was giving me. Right. Literally, Billy. What I did was I went home. The next time that I met with my girlfriend at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. I literally just pulled out the toy, put it on her clit while it was rumbling, right? And was fucking her at the same time. And the experience that she had was just orgasmic, like something she's never experienced. And this was somebody that was quite older than me at that time. So like she had a bit more experience than me. Right. She was just like blown away by it. And in my mind, it was like a neuron fired. I'm like, yo, if one toy could do this, I need to know what else is out there. Especially, again, I mentioned it wasn't an intentional toy. It wasn't like I said, this is the toy I want, or I didn't know how much money I needed to spend or invest in a good toy. It was just something that happened by accident. So I made up my mind that was going to be something that I was going to explore. It took me quite a while to buy more, but I knew from that moment that it was going to be something that was going to be a part of me.
Well, can you give the fellas, now, not everybody's going to be marvelous, right? But let them be
them.
Let them be them. What's a tip that will help the men to please their ladies? A simple tip.
Okay. Slow down.
Spice up the bedroom.
Slow down.
Okay.
Slow down. Men experience pleasure from friction. We watch porn and it's just like in and out, in and out, in and
Mhm.
out. But as much as women do enjoy being taken to Pound Town every now and again, it cannot be that way from beginning to end. Learning how to slow down and be present and understanding that pleasure is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
So being present means like, speaking through your senses. Like, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? And being in connection with your partner during that time. Understand how important foreplay is, and foreplay is should be, and there's a lot of sex educators that believe that foreplay should be more important than sex to some degree,
Mhm.
or should replace the word sex, because our understanding of sex or definition of sex is usually like penis vagina sex. But
Mhm.
believe it or not, you know what I'm saying, there are so many different versions of sex that are way more orgasmic, right? But to get back to my point, how foreplay is so important, understanding that it just takes time for a woman's body to get really comfortable and really riled up to the point where she's able to experience the most pleasure possible, right?
Mhm.
So an analogy that I would use is, I'm hoping you enjoy oxtails, right?
Love it.
Good,
I love it.
good, good. So you understand that oxtails takes quite a while to cook, right? It
Mhm.
takes quite a few hours. In fact, you need to marinate that meat before.
This friend, we do have to say
Yeah,
pause.
you gotta say pause. You gotta marinate it prior to actually getting ready to cook it, right? So
Mhm.
understanding that just certain things in life, we just gotta accept the time process it takes for it to be or come to fruition, right?
Mhm.
And if we just change the way that we look at women's pleasure and understand that it takes time to get them to a place where they feel safe and comfortable and ready to go. And trust me, when you build up that arousal within a woman's body, it's going to be hard to turn it off. In fact, most women are afraid to let go and just get tap into that sexual energy, because a lot of the times it intimidates men.
Mhm.
So taking your time, understanding that foreplay is more than just sucking titties or eating pussy or kissing, which is great. Those are the
Mhm.
fundamentals. I ain't telling you not to do those things. But what I am telling you is to understand that there are other things that you can do to make it more of an experimental journey. You can use temperature play, you can use things that are warm, use things that are
Mhm.
cold, you can incorporate toys, and toys don't always mean dildos, right? That's
Right.
another thing men always think. "Oh, I ain't buying no toy. You ain't gonna stick this or stick that."
Mhm.
You could use vibrators, you can use nipple clamps, you can use a silk scarf, you can use
Mhm.
rope. And if you don't know what you're doing, just start slow and just drag things across your partner's body and wake up that nervous system with different things like that.
During an intimate setting,
Hmm.
what's 3 red flags a person should look out for if the person's, like, actually paying attention to their body?
Okay.
Like, if the giver is paying attention to the receiver's body?
So, that's a good question. Let me really think about that. Three red flags to that would point out if a person is what? Like,
How can I put it is, all right, in my last relationship, I developed sexual anxiety
okay,
performance, right?
I like,
I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable, had body issues within myself,
mm-hmm,
but also I didn't feel comfortable with the person. The person didn't take their time or
mm-hmm,
with me, and the sex just became horrible.
right.
Right. So what are some 3 flags? What are 3 red flags a person could look out for to when they're in a
Oh,
situation and say, hey,
this ain't it.
this ain't it.
Yeah, so I understand that. And you actually kind of gave me one of the answers. The when a person is not taking their time, like I mentioned, that pleasure is supposed to be a journey, not a destination. So when a person is so focused on, like, again, orgasm, even though I do speak about the orgasm gap a lot, I'm not here to tell focus on giving a woman an orgasm the entire time that you're having
Mhm.
an experience with them. Or even if it's with same-sex couples, it doesn't mean that you have to focus on the orgasm part. So if a person is rushing you to orgasm, or if they're trying to be more performative than necessary, you can tell that's evidence that they're not being present in that moment. They're trying to do more than be. You
Right.
understand? And that's something that we have to stop. We see things on television and we want to do that thing, or we want to be the best of this. And I understand that there's some healthy stimulation that comes from the idea of having the motivation of wanting to be better, or wanting the experience to be better than the last. But understanding that just being present, taking your time, encouraging your person, speaking. So many people are afraid to talk during sex because they think it has to be this long conversation. But a lot of the times it's just giving your partner feedback. Like,
Mhm.
babe, you look good. I spoke to I spoke to a friend of mine's last time about sexual anxiety, especially within men when it comes to like losing their erections and things like that. And a lot of the times what a woman could do in that particular scenario is just encourage the man and understand that it's not a big deal. Let them know, like, babe, we could do other things. I want you. And what happens is when you change the goal from being about one thing, it actually, releases dopamine in your system when you give a person a goal that they can accomplish. When we are able to do something and do it well, it makes us feel good and it gives us confidence and it builds up that energy that we need that is going to kind of combat that erectile dysfunction that we're experiencing at that moment or whatever that anxiety is causing. So taking your time, being present, and one thing that you can definitely do is talk to your partner during that moment. Another red flag that I would say is if a person is not being intentional with setting up time or setting up space, right? So if I invite a partner over, or if anybody's inviting a partner over and they notice that right away, like you didn't even clean up, they didn't even straighten up. Like this night is supposed to be a night full of intimacy or could be full of intimacy, and you didn't even have the decency to make sure that there's soap in the bathroom or got a clean washcloth or a clean towel or just like the necessities that I might need to feel comfortable to let go, especially when you're dealing with, people that definitely, prioritize those things. So if you come over and you realize that there's no real intention through what you see and how things are set up, then you know that that's a red flag. That person is just they're not giving it their all. You know what I mean? The last thing that I would say is it goes back to communicating. If a person is always avoiding conversations about, the experiences that you guys are having, whether it be before, which in kink and BDSM we call like a negotiation. Don't let the terms throw you guys off. It's just a way to identify what it is that's happening, right? But yes, the negotiation is when we talk about what we would like to experience before we even begin. How would you like to feel? Who you would like to be? What would you like to try? What are some things you're looking forward to? And don't think about it as like expectations are going to ruin things, but more so give you something to look forward to, build excitement in the body. So talking before an experience. Of course, like I mentioned, giving feedback during the experience is also important, but everybody's not going to be able to do that. But at the very least, you can talk about it after. It doesn't have to be right after. It should be or could be, but it could be a couple of days later. Like, babe, how was the last time we experienced? What was something that really stood out to you that you enjoy? What do I do that you love that I do? What's something that I could change or isn't really for you, or things like that, and be open to that criticism because it's not about breaking you down, but rather building you up. I don't want to do anything that my partner doesn't like. If I could just avoid it, I'm going to avoid it, right? And being excited about having these conversations because they empower us. Like we do that. We have debriefs in so many other elements of our lives where we talk about, you can't have a job for a period of time without sitting down with your boss and being like, let's talk about the year.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this last 6 months. Let's talk about the last 90 days. You know what I'm saying? And let's review what we can improve upon. You can't have a business or a successful business without reviewing what's going on, and we need to treat our bodies the same way, our pleasure the same way. Like, let's talk about, what we're experiencing and what could be improved upon, what should stay, what's our go-to. I love that thing you do, babe. You know what I mean? To get hype and things like that. So I would say, again, that last flag would be if a person is avoiding conversations about, the intimacy that you guys share.
I'm going to add the flag on there. A flag is lack of aftercare. And as I'm getting older, I'm learning that aftercare is extremely important.
Yes.
And people don't do that. It's more than just getting a rag and have a nice day. I'm not a cheap whore. I don't want to do that. You feel me?
Yes.
But like, let's cuddle. Let's watch something together. Let's fall asleep together. Let's eat a snack together.
Right.
And I would love to do an episode about the importance of aftercare because you deserve to be treated like you deserve to
marvelously.
Marvelously. Come on now. Come on.
It's nothing better than when somebody brings you exactly what you need as if they read your mind.
Yeah.
That shit is fire. You know what I mean?
It's perfect. Why not finish sucking someone's dick and then bring them a spliff? That's amazing.
That's
have a great day. So my question to you is, I think for me, I was just sitting here like, this is so awesome to me because I've seen you on the internet for a while. I can't remember a few places, but one place I know I saw you is at Candy from the Housewives.
Yes.
And so now for me to be sitting here with you is extremely dope. So thank you for coming again. My next question is, speaking of dungeons, and nobody's speaking of it, but I'm bringing it up. you own dungeons, right?
Hmm.
Why do people come to you in the dungeons? What's going on in there?
Okay, so I just came to the revelation the other day
Okay.
that when I say dungeon, it's not as sexy to some people as I would imagine it could be. And the reason is because when people think of a dungeon, they think of some place that's scary or decrepit or just nasty. But my
Hmm.
dungeon is the complete opposite. That I say that my dungeon is like an extension of me, the way that I dress, the way that I carry myself, the way that I smell, how, all of that is an extension of me. When you step foot in my dungeon, there's art on the walls, there's clouds in the ceiling, everything smells amazing, everything is nice and organized, but it also has this intimidation factor because you do know it is a dungeon. You're going to see the floggers, you're going to see the whips, you're going to see the chains and all of that, but it's still a very sexy environment. But most importantly, is a very clean environment,
Hmm.
which again makes people feel very, very comfortable. So to answer your question, the reason that a person would enjoy coming to my dungeon would be because it puts you in that mind space that you want to be in. I always talk about the importance of having a place that you can go or redesigning a space, even if it's just temporary, that doesn't look like your regular day-to-day experience. So for example, if you live in a home and you have children and you have a long-term partner, and sometimes you work from your bedroom, sometimes you eat in your bedroom,
Hmm.
sometimes the kids are in your bedroom, sometimes you and your spouse may be arguing in the bedroom or just dealing with life in your bedroom all the time. As dope as it would be for your bedroom to be the most sexual space, sometimes it doesn't put you in the best sexual headspace because there's all these other energies that are taking place in there. So one idea is, if you can, rent a hotel room, and take a couple of things, change the light bulbs, or change the lighting, take some LED lights over there and change the lighting, change the smells, light a few candles, create an environment that says like tonight's a different type of night. And if you can't do that, then decorate your space in your home, whether it be that bedroom a little bit different, even if it means like moving a little furniture, because again, it shows intention. Like, say, babe, send that person out for a couple of hours and tell them to come back. And when they get back, they see it's a whole different layout for that night.
Hmm.
And it just sets a different intention. It shows, it builds excitement. Like, oh man, you did a lot.
Hmm.
What you got playing for me, And again, you're building that excitement within the body. So that's what the dungeon does. It's able to create a different headspace right away. When you walk in, you forget where you are. I mean, where the location as far as geographic is concerned, and you are fully present in that moment because there's so many things that are going to be just grabbing your eye and grabbing your attention. And I'm able to explain it so well, so it even builds
Okay.
more excitement.
I always said, and I know it's gonna happen, I'm gonna have a sex room.
As you should.
I believe everybody, not everybody should,
Everybody
but
should.
everybody should have a sex room. Whether it's a swing right there, I'm gonna create my own dungeon. And just the thought of a dungeon sounds so
Hmm.
amazing because I would have never thought of the smell when you go, like, you're
Hmm.
in a whole different environment and you
Yes.
see the same four walls having the sex in the same four walls.
Mm.
That's why I'm okay with giving head on the train because it's spontaneous and fun. It's something to do differently. But I like that you said anticipation, and that's going to lead us to our chemistry class. That's our relationship segment.
Okay.
And the first topic is building sexual anticipation with your partner.
Okay.
It's not always easy to create that kind of energy. So what are some simple ways couples can start building sexual anticipation?
Okay. So what so many people get wrong about communicating when it comes to intimacy is they think that if they talk about what they want, that they're setting the expectations too high and now it's just going to work against them. But the reality is that anxiety is built up or breeds upon the unknown. So what I mean by that is, so many people have tried to be spontaneous with their partners, and I get it. It can work. It could be super successful. Shit, I know what I've
Mhm.
done it myself. But also, it's also going to be the place where the majority of the time people are going to have experiences that leave them either traumatized or triggered by the idea of doing that thing again, because the way it was brought up in that spontaneous manner just wasn't for them. Hence, my one of my favorite things is anal training, right? So a lot of women have said like, hey, I tried anal and I will never do it again. It was the worst thing that ever happened. And then my follow-up question is like, let's talk about how that happened. Did you guys read a book about it? Did you guys go to a class about it? Did you guys watch any videos about it? Did you guys have a conversation about doing it before it occurred? No, it was on that Henny and he just tried to put it in my ass. It was getting crazy. And the next thing you know, it was just like blah, blah, blah. And I just never want to do it again. And I'm like, You understand? You weren't prepared. You weren't properly prepared to have that approach, and you being part of the LGBT community, you know how much communication it takes place for a lot of people when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to prepping and doing certain things that could prepare you for that to be successful. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing that you can do in any form of relationship. Have those conversations about the things that you want to try, and you can still have the spontaneous experience, because just because I'm telling you what we're going to do today doesn't mean that I'm going to show you how I'm going to, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what, when I'm going to do it or when it's going to happen, so to speak. But we're going to talk about the ways that I can keep you safe. I'm going to talk about, like, for example, I spoke on a lot of another podcast about rope play. Most people are afraid of trying rope play because they think that they're going to be tied up and they're going to be left there and they're going to not have any power to get out. But you can discuss, like, hey, if at any point in time something feels uncomfortable, just say this and I'll let you out right away. I also have these safety shears right here in case anything gets a little bit too uncomfortable. I'm going to cut you out right away. Or,
Mm.
I want you to understand that there are ways that we can check in with one another. Same thing when it comes, let's go back to anal training, understanding that the best way, when you read about, especially when you're dealing with a woman's body, right? The best way to lead up to anal sex is to give her vaginal orgasms first. The worst way to get a woman to relax is by using the word relax. What I actually like to do is I like to tell, like, I'm about to give you some juice right now, but what I actually like to do is I actually tell the woman to squeeze her ass. And what ends up happening is when you squeeze a muscle for a long period of time, what's going to happen after a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna relax. It's gonna relax on its own. So if I tell you to squeeze that anal muscle, what's gonna happen is after a couple of seconds, you're not gonna be able to squeeze much longer, and then you tend to relax. So what you can do is you can ease your way in with a butt plug or a finger or whatever other tool that you plan on using at that moment. Also, knowing that clitoral stimulation is another way that you can add more pleasure during that anal experience. So again, we've only been talking for literally 2 minutes about anal, and most people haven't had that much of a conversation before they tried it. So to get back to what you were saying about
Y'all
building
welcome. Y'all listening and
a
watching. Y'all
so
welcome.
so to get back to what you said about anticipation, understanding that when you know that a person has taken the time to plan something, to think something through, that builds excitement. You understand? And you can still have that spontaneous experience because you don't know when it's going to happen. You just know, like, man, this person just knows that Billy been
Mm-hmm.
reading about this. He been doing this research. I haven't seen him this excited about something in a long time. I'm ready, So that's what I would say is a good idea.
So how can couples maintain sexual anticipation when life gets in the way, whether it's like work,
hmm
kids, stress?
So prioritizing your pleasure, right? We've heard the term before. It's kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's trendy right now. The
Mm.
idea of prioritizing what feels good to you. But when you think about the word priority, you have to understand that that means like making room for that thing. So many people have spent their entire beginning of their lives up to their adult lives doing what everything that society tells you to do. Go to school, get the good job, or build a business. Get married, have the family, do all of these different things. But like, where does pleasure play in that? Right? The reality is that you need to make sure that you are building or creating time and space for you to experience certain things. And again, back to having certain conversations, plan intimacy moments or intimacy blocks of time. For example, like next Tuesday, let's block off the hours of 6 to 9. One thing that makes my BDSM experiences with my clients so powerful is that they know that they're going to need at least 3 hours of time where their phone's going to be on do not disturb. They already figured out the sitters. They already figured out what's going on with work or whatever. Like, for that time, they're fully present. And what happens in a lot of relationships is it's hard to switch from being the mom or being the dad or being the business owner or being this or being that to now we just gonna fuck, and it's only been 5 minutes between the last time that I had a conversation. I just got off this
Mm.
Zoom call. I just finished putting the kids to sleep. And it's just like, how do I transition into that headspace of being able to be fully present for this intimate moment? So having time where you can just spend 3 hours, like you said, maybe we smoke a blunt, we watch some TV a little bit, but we know the kids not gonna bother us. We know that like work is not gonna
Mm-hmm.
bother us. We know that like life in at this moment, anything's happening, it's gonna have to happen after this
Mm-hmm.
this block of time, and during that time I'm able to fully be present. And even if sex doesn't occur, you still have that time to share with one another because intimacy is getting into one another, right? So it doesn't matter if the sex occurs, it may happen next time. It may most likely happen that time, but at least you are intentional about creating that time for you guys and not letting anything come between that.
Listen, I am learning so much from my future relationships. I know y'all hoes and niggas is listening too. He's dropping gems, okay? Wolf, when you got the gems? He's dropping?
I
God
appreciate that.
damn. Are there any techniques or exercises couples can try to mentally and emotionally build anticipation before they get into the bedroom?
Oh, yes, edging.
Okay.
Edging. So, the act of, bringing yourself very close to orgasm, but not allowing yourself to actually have that orgasm. That's something that you can do with a partner or away from a partner. You can give your partner basically homework or an assignment and saying like, I want you to edge your pussy or edge your dick, 3 times, today or 2 times before you get to go, you're on your way to work. And that way they're going real horny. That blood is still in their body and their system, and they don't actually get that opportunity to release until they actually see you. So what that does is it does multiple things. It's from a health point, what you're doing is you're teaching your body a way to control your orgasm a little bit better. Also, you're building the eventual orgasm to be more powerful. So you got to think about it like all that sexual energy is being stored in that area. So often, especially within men, we rush to orgasm. We need to learn to hold that shit back as much as we can. I read a book called the Superior Man, and one of the chapters spoke about when a woman actually, this is crazy. When a woman asks you to come, she doesn't actually want you to come. It's a test. She wants to make sure that she wants to know that you have enough willpower to hold that shit back. The sexiest thing that you can do when a woman or your partner tells you, come in this pussy or come in me, period, is to not. Not to say that you shouldn't do it eventually.
Right.
Don't do it at that moment.
Moment.
You understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Hold that shit back. Tell her they don't deserve it. You don't deserve this
No
shit. Yeah.
Diddy, I'm not gonna hold you. I resonate with that. I resonate with that.
So
Talk about no Diddy. I went to work using baby oil today. Mind you, it's so mind blowing because I work with a bunch of Latinos, right?
Mhm.
And they barely speak English. I love them. Shout outs to them.
Mhm.
But they was like, you Diddy. So I had to ask. I said, they be playing Diddy on your news stations? Y'all
Oh
know
my
about
God.
that? I was like, yeah, sí, Diddy loco. I said, ay, que fuerte, que fuerte. Coño. No, but, and I just learned, maybe I'm late to the game, but I really don't deal with women. Has been years since another segue.
Mhm.
So I have my ex-girlfriend. She posted her new boyfriend. I was like, damn, I'm jealous.
Oh.
And she was like, stop playing with me, bro. And I'm like, no, I'm dead ass jealous. Like, because that's one girl that can have my heart. We
But
probably have
yeah,
an open
to
relationship.
expand on it, even though you don't deal with women, I'm sure that there's a lot of experiences that can be very, very similar. Like energy is energy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm pretty sure you've heard somebody say, come, right, give me that nut right now.
Yep.
And it's like, nah, I'm
Yeah.
giving it to you. Or you might be the one begging for the nut. And you're like, actually, I don't want you to nut. I kind of want you to tell me to work for it a
Yeah,
little more.
because if I tell you were and you still not, it's like, it was over.
It's over, right.
But I just learned at this big age that women edges too. I never knew that.
Oh, women are queen of edging. They like to drag that shit out. If you really ask or talk to a woman about how she masturbates, they will let you know that, like, yes, there are times where they want to go to sleep real quick and they just want to bust one out, or they want to get ready for work real quick and they want to bust one out. But sometimes, or most times than not, they're dragging that shit out a little longer. They're like, I don't want to come yet. A lot of times, one of the best compliments and complaints about the roles is that it makes them come too quick. So, and for a man, that's not you wouldn't never hear a man say, "Oh, that sex toy is whack. It makes me come too quick." It's not, nah. But for women, they say it all the time. Like the rose is dangerous. They hate it and love it because it makes them come too quick.
That's insane. So you mentioned when you edge. I just want to be clear.
Okay.
So when I go back and listen to this, because also this needs to be studied as my lesson plans of when I go back and listen to it. I could edge and go to work and go out my day, and that excitement and the intensity is still going to be there. So when I get back, I'm going to want to fuck.
So one of my friends had this conversation. We had a conversation the other day, and he said we should not call a man's orgasm coming. We should call it going. Because when we come, we lose so much energy. We lose so much creativity. We lose so much of our libido. We lose so much of that desire to do. In fact, on a spiritual level, when we come, it is a sign of completion. right? That is kind of like one of our greatest jobs as a man, to be able to produce that seed. So when you just kind of like letting it go all willy-nilly, which again, don't get it twisted. Like, I like masturbation, I like
Hmm.
having sex, I like to nut. But I also, like you mentioned, at this big age, I am learning that there are more powerful things that you could experience with delayed gratification. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Anything worth having is worth waiting for, worth working for as well. So, if this has been working for you for a long time, you made it to this big age and you just been nutting when you want to nut, how you want to nut, that's great. Try something different now and see how that works for you. Try to get to yourself every time that you feel yourself getting to that point where you're about to come, slow the fuck down and tell yourself, not yet, not
Mm.
yet. You know what I mean? And
Sometimes that shit's hard.
that shit is hard, but that's why it's called practice. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? That's why sometimes it's good to practice with yourself, because you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm trying to stop, and poo, 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 it's gonna come out anyway.
Yeah.
But you keep trying, and then guess what? You're gonna get better. Anything that you practice, you're gonna get better at. They say practice doesn't make perfect, it makes better. So
A word. All right. So we're gonna go to our next topic in the chemistry class. And that is how to get comfortable with asking for what you want. How can someone get past their fear of being judged or rejected when asking for their desires in bed?
I like that. So, and kink and BDSM, we call creating a safe space the act of discussing with the person that, hey, I would like to have a conversation where, one, I don't have to fear being criticized, you don't have to fear being criticized, and neither one of us are going to be defensive about anything that we're going to share in this moment. We have to understand that this is a place of democracy. This is a place of freedom, of acceptance, and also I want to make sure that when I'm trying to create this safe space, that also includes making sure that you even want to have this conversation right now. So often people want to have conversations without prepping the person. As soon as you walk in, or as soon as I think we're sitting next to one another, I want to jump into this deep, loaded conversation, and you kind of like just want to watch TV, or you just kind of want to relax, or play the game, or smoke a blunt, or just chill. I'm not trying to be in that space. So when you do kind of entertain the conversation for a little while, guess what? Now you get irritable, and now you get a little bit defensive, and that person shuts down because they're trying to share with you something that's important to them, but you're not in a space to actually receive it. So understanding that creating a safe space is, one, making sure that we can have this conversation at this particular time. Babe, I want to have this conversation. Can we talk? It's going to take about, I don't know how long it's going to take, but are you even in a headspace to have a conversation about pleasure, sex, intimacy, whatever you want to do? Right? And if not, we can schedule it for another time. That's not a horrible thing. I know it sounds crazy to some people, it sounds too nerdy, but it's worth it. Like, do shit different. Like, be organized with your intention, right? And then again, that other part of creating a safe space is understanding that it's going to take practice, but I want us to be able to have conversations where neither of us get defensive. And understand, men, if a woman is sharing with you something, or anybody rather, let me take that back. If anybody is sharing with you something that is intimate to them, that is deep, or might be taboo, or something hard to share, the most sexiest thing you can do is be accepting of that thing. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised how many fantasies or thoughts a person may have, and he never found somebody he could share it with. Why not let that person be you?
Right.
Why? Oh, you want this and you want that, so I'm not enough, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not what's happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm talking to you, I'm communicating with you because I trust you with my deepest, darkest desires. And I want you to, I wish that you could respond well and let me know that even if this sounds crazy, I'm safe enough to share that with you. So creating a safe space is super important. It will take time to get good at it, but again, set that intention to have these conversations about all these different things, and don't shy away from having these conversations as often as you can. Not every single time, but definitely like every now and again. Let's sit down and let's talk about some things, and let's learn about each other.
How can we role play this? I'm gonna maybe ask you something that I want to
Okay.
try, and then you give me feedback on how I can improve, right?
Okay, perfect.
So we're gonna role play.
Yes.
Okay. So, I've been looking at this thing online, and I've been watching this podcast called Needs to Be Studied, one of the greatest shows I love and enjoy. And I heard them mention role playing. And I want to try it. I'm interested.
Yeah.
But all right, hold on. Your character is very vanilla because my ex was vanilla.
Okay.
What do you think about it?
Role play. I've never really like even thought about it before. Like what would we even begin?
I mean, I don't know. I never tried it either. I just think maybe we could, do something like maybe cops and robbers.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop you now, right? So the first thing that I realized is that again, you're not prepared to have this conversation,
Mm,
right? You said you watched the podcast, which is a good way to start it, but perhaps having something that you've already researched or something that you could kind of present that would be a great way to start. So I was looking at this script that I thought would be perfect for us. You know what I mean? And like,
mm,
or perfect for you. Sometimes we can project on, and this is a healthy tactic that we can use in life and psychology in general. We can project a particular personality onto a person. I thought, like, I was watching this podcast and they mentioned something that I thought would be perfect for you. So
mm,
now you're already kind of switching their mindset to being open-minded to whatever you're about to present to them next. Or I was reading this script, this role play script that, it was talking about a knight, and I know how much you love knights, babe. And I was like, yo, you should be the knight in this situation, and da da
mm,
da. So now you're creating this hypeness versus it being this like this conversation where it's kind of like I gotta convince you of something that I'm already leading with a negative because I think you might not be into it. But if I'm leading with something that I know or feel or have reason to believe it would be like something you would be excited about,
mhm.
it's that's going to help you a little bit better be able to.
So where do you say these lines will cross as far as different stages where you're dating somebody, you're exclusive with somebody, and then you're in a relationship?
Mm.
At what point or aspect do you mention these desires? Do you mention these desires in your dating stage, exclusive stage? Because everybody can't get the goody, goody, good.
Well, for sure after you send that note of do you want to be my girlfriend, yes or no.
Okay.
You got that has to happen first before you guys can be official. Now I'm joking, but you know this is probably going to be where a lot of people are not going to necessarily disagree with me. I am also learning at this big age is that we are very possessive with what we're very possessive with our lovers. And what that means is, let me try to frame this right so because it doesn't come out the worst way possible. It ain't that serious. It ain't that serious. If you're being safe and consensual, whether you're in the dating stage, the situation stage, the just kicking it stage, or the real relationship stage, you don't need to hold back so much. This whole idea that I'm holding this and holding that and holding
Mhm,
this and holding that, I get it could work for some people. I understand that you want to hold certain sexual acts for that person that you feel like you want to spend the rest of your life with. But at the end of the day, it ain't that serious. You need to explore things, again, being safe and being consensual, but being open to explore things at all stages, especially if the person you're with, at whatever stage you're with them at, is making you feel comfortable enough to do that.
yeah. So, how does a person know when they're ready to explore more sex adventures or more intimacy?
Mm. When you start to feel like there's more that you just aren't able to kind of tap into, when you feel like you almost had this feeling or you felt like you come close. So like women, I speak a lot about women's pleasure because they can empathize with feeling like, oh man, I was about to experience this orgasm or about to experience this pleasure and it just kind of like faded away because the
Mm,
guy nutted or he's changed the position or he changed the rhythm or this that and the third. So that's one way that you can know like, hey, there's more to this pleasure that I'm supposed to be having that I'm not actually getting. But there's also ways that you can find out. For example, there's a lot of terminology in kink and BDSM that we use that most people do in their day-to-day sexual experiences. For example, these floggers are used for actually impacting a person's booty, and we could talk about what the science of that is
mhm.
later. But or the paddle for same idea, impacting a person's booty. But most people don't have floggers. Most people don't have paddles. But what they normally use is what?
The hand.
Their hands. So you're not going to tell me you've never heard of somebody hitting it from behind and spanking
Mhm.
somebody's ass. Like
Right.
that's impact play. You're not going to tell me you've never heard somebody being, getting that choke and stroke combination. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's asphyxiation play when you're choking a person.
Mm,
You're not going to tell me that nobody closes their eyes during sex. That is called, sensory deprivation. That's the same thing as a blindfold. So when you start to read about things, when you watch podcasts like this, when you start taking kink quizzes or sexual compatibility quizzes, and they start, asking questions and you start learning about different things, you realize like, oh shit, this is already connected to some of the things that I like. I like it in my ass spank. Maybe I might like a flogger. Oh, I like closing my eyes during sex. Maybe I might like a blindfold. Oh, I love rubbing my clit while he's hitting it. Maybe I might like a vibrator on my clit while he's fucking me. You know, there are ways that we can build upon the things that we already enjoy by just opening our mind to the conversation about other things. The terminology alone can change your life.
Mm. Listen, y'all, this is at this point, this is extra credit. The hell? All right, so thank you for that. So we're gonna go to our extracurricular activities, which is our sex segment, but this is a sex episode. And I want to talk about rebuilding your sexual confidence. And for me, after that last horrible relationship, I kind of feel like I lost my sexual confidence. Now I know I'm lit, but
Billy.
it did Billy the bad guy.
Right.
You feel me? So it did take me some time to get there, but there's days where you don't feel like yourself and you don't feel like you're always there. And I think it's important to make sure you get that back. Because I remember when I was a young tender Thyleroni, my sexual confidence was up there. I didn't care. I was ready to do anything. But then as you get older, you gain weight, and then your knees don't work like you used to. And then the compatibility is you in your head too much because you want to make sure you're enjoying the person, right? So I want to speak on rebuilding sexual confidence. How do you define sexual confidence?
The root word of confidence is confide. And the word confide means to trust. I got that from Myron Golden. I love him. I love his work. I should look at it. But again, like I said, the word confidence, the root word in the word confidence means to confide. The word confide means to trust. And to trust, when you to have confidence means that you trust yourself, right? And what you want to do to build that confidence up is to do things that you know that are just great for you. You know, sometimes we want to be the best versions of ourselves, but in our minds, we know we're not doing the best things we could do for ourselves. So as much as we hate the idea of hearing the cliche advice like exercise, eat right, rest, drink your water, if you know in your mind that you're not doing those things, how could you possibly be the best version of yourself? You know, like be real with yourself first. You know that, you know, what you're not doing. And that's where I would focus on, like starting with building yourself up. Anytime anybody goes through anything that's heartbreaking or, you know, just shifting as it relates to your confidence, and you have to work back on yourself. You know, it's like you walking into a room knowing like it's, again, I know that a lot of people hate working out. I get it. Trust me, I'm just getting back into it and I'm loving it a little bit more, but it's nothing better than leaving the gym or leaving an experience that you know that you put in some physical work where like other people didn't. You kind of walk a little taller, your chest is a little bit more out
I'm not
there.
gonna hold you. And I was going to the gym like crazy and I was slim real quick. I said, I was just sitting here thinking like I have a whole membership to Equinox that I don't use.
Oh, I need that. I'm gonna need that. No, you know what I'm saying? Same thing with eating right. You know what I'm saying? Again, I love food. Like I mentioned oxtails because one of my favorite things. And again, I'm on this journey of like trying to eat better and do better. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a foodie. But I can tell you when I've eaten something that is delicious but also healthy, it makes me feel good about myself. It gives me energy. It gives me confidence. Like there are different things that we can do to build that confidence that has to do with focusing on ourselves. It can't be external as it relates to like finding a new partner or getting somebody sexier than the last person that we had. Like none of that is going to validate us and make us feel super confident about ourselves, because when that person leaves or starts to change, we're going to be right back to square one. But you are who you are when you by yourself. So focus on the things that make you the best version. Like you, when we walked in, you was mentioning like how much you've been working. You know what I'm saying? Like you that should gives you a little bit of not a little bit, it should give you a lot of confidence that you know you're running a fucking business, bro. You're a black man in America running a fucking business, bro. In addition to whatever else you're doing, like moving with that type of energy. And now imagine you adding on working out, you're eating right, you know that you're prioritizing your rest, you know that you're doing like Kegels, which is a sexual exercise that we could speak about. You know, that's the act of using your PC muscles to build bigger and better erections and longer erections and stronger orgasms. So when you're doing these things, as wordy as they sound, as nerdy as they may sound, they are necessary things that can lead to you having a lot more confidence than, you know, whatever you're dealing with, you know, when you're not doing these things. So
I think you kind of
Self work.
I think you kind of answered my question, next
Mm,
question, because it was
mm,
going to say, I
mm,
was going to say, for those who feel disconnected from them sexual selves,
mm.
whereas the first steps they could take to rebuilding their confidence. And definitely say going to my Equinox
Yeah,
gym
yeah,
and using it for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Because I definitely would feel more confident.
And I can't say this. I can't forget to say this. And Wolf is in the room as well. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? The spirituality is real too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I don't mean religious per se, but I mean like the words you speak to yourself. Understand that we create the world that we live in with the words that we speak. So understanding that reading things that are positive can also lead to confidence, listening to things that are positive, watching things that are positive,
Hmm.
and the words you speak to yourself. Like I'm going through, me personally, Sir Marvelous is going through a storm of my own. I spoke to you about
Hmm.
life and before this episode started. But
Hmm.
guess what? I'm fighting through it. I got my affirmations on my wall in my dungeon and I'm trying to read them every day. So it gives me more and more confidence. I got a little prayer book. So I'm reading that every single day. I'm watching different things. Like I mentioned, Myron Gold is somebody I've been listening to. So like I'm trying to show you that I'm not perfect. And I get moments of insecurity or
Hmm.
moments where I feel like I'm kind of feeling low and I'm doing the work and I'm seeing, the results and the fruits of that labor, so to speak.
Hmm.
And there is no other way to get yourself where you want to be because I've tried it in the past. I've distracted myself with like, years ago when I would go through something, I would just jump into something else that's a distraction that I know is just temporary, but it feels good. And then guess what? I end up back in the same boat over and over again. So it's time to do something different that's going to last longer, which is working on my internal self, you
Yeah.
know?
And so we already said going to the gym with the physical part, right?
Yeah, look at
I'm
the face.
definitely
You're like,
tripping. But body images, of course, is connected to it, right?
Yes.
And I would like to say, I remember when I first had my appendix surgery,
Hmm.
almost died
Mm.
because it burst and I didn't know for days
Oh,
in the
Lord.
hospital. I told Wolf yesterday, throwing up shit, literally throwing
Sheesh.
up shit out my mouth.
Wow.
But I have a scar now from my surgery.
Hmm.
And I remember like, damn, like that scar is not attractive. Like,
Hmm.
and it's not bad. It was just me in my head.
Yeah.
But I had this one nigga and he was like, that's what you worry about?
Right.
And the nigga started licking
Licking your
on
shit.
it. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yo,
that's the right one.
yo. So we're gonna go to what needs to be studied. In this episode, we're gonna study the psychological aspect of BDSM. What's the difference between BDSM, kinks, and fetishes?
The difference between fetishes and kinks is that most of the time people that enjoy fetishes are enjoying something that is not necessarily directly related to a sexual act, but they need it to receive sexual gratification from it,
Okay.
to derive that sexual pleasure from it. It's kind of like that need, right? So I need to lick your boot to kind of get off. And it's like, you
Okay.
know what I mean? Versus somebody who is enjoying a kink that is just pleasurable to them that can be related to sex or something sexual, like, again, rope play or being flogged or being choked and things like that, while other sexual things are taking place at the same time. It's not necessarily a need for them to get off, but it's something that can add pleasure to the experience that they're having.
Why are people interested in these things?
Yes.
Like, it's so we hear everything about it, but we don't know why the people want to do this stuff. And I want to know because I'm into some things because I hate that I'm an open book. I done sniffed a nigga's drawers before,
Okay.
but not by accident. But I was interested, like, what your drawer smell like?
Yeah.
Because first you look for a stain,
Mhm.
ain't no stains, but
Yeah. Now you just want this.
yeah, I
the hormones.
honestly, I just don't know why I sniffed it
Mhm.
once, twice,
Mhm.
3, maybe 4 times.
Mhm.
But I like that smell of that seasoning in the underwear.
Well, let me be clear. You're not crazy.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with you for enjoying something like that or enjoying that moment because there is a chemical response that happens when you smell the hormones of another person. Like, and that's very, very uh very apparent when men are around like pregnant women. Like
Mhm.
there's something about that energy, that aura, that those hormones that she's giving off. It's a very sexual experience. I felt it personally, and I've known a lot of men that also experience that when they're around certain women like that. But the reason that people are into kink and BDSM is because I look at the difference between a kinkster and somebody who would just be like a freak. Nothing is wrong with either, but the freak is just somebody who's open-minded to trying different things. They're open to doing things and things like
Mhm.
that. The kinkster, the person that's practicing BDSM, they're taking the more of the nerd approach. They want to understand. They want to understand what they like, why they like it, and how they can build upon it. You
Okay.
understand? So it's just we're basically two peas in a pod, so to speak, but one is just taking a little bit more intention into it. And that's where that power comes in. We've all experienced things that we enjoy by accident. And then the fucked up or the worst part about it is that we're not able to recreate that thing because we didn't even know how we got there or what happened. We didn't have no conversation about it. And that's where you lose that kind of power, so to speak. It's not the worst thing in the world to happen, but you can be more intentional by talking about these different things. So again, the difference or the thing that draws people to kink and BDSM, especially those that enjoy it, is that we love the idea of the exploration part of it. We love the idea of learning new shit about
Hmm.
ourselves and new shit about other partners or partners that we're dealing with and things like that. And it just gives us something to be excited about, to look forward
Mm.
to, versus, just kind of like living it day to day.
What is What are some misconceptions about BDSM that you think are keeping people away from exploring this world?
Oh, I love that question. I love that question. That is white people shit.
Yep.
That is the first thing that comes to mind when I think about people saying that they don't want to try BDSM or kink. Like, oh, that's that white people shit. I seen it on television. You ain't gonna be beating me. You ain't gonna
Hmm.
be kicking me in the nuts and stepping on me and
Yep.
making me bark like a chicken and shit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, whoa, like, first of all, that is not how all people do kink. That is
Mhm.
not how the majority of people do kink and BDSM. I like to teach people that when it comes to pleasure, when it comes to fantasies, when it comes to desires, a lot of the times we desire polarity. We desire what we don't normally get. So historically speaking, we've only saw on television and in movies and in most books, when it comes to kink, we've only saw the white person's perspective of what they would enjoy. So a lot of the times they're showing, again, degradation, humiliation, people, acting like things that they're not and getting joy from that. But that's what they like because historically speaking, they've always been in a position of power where they've been doing that to other people. They've been beating people and enslaving people and hurting people and making people feel like shit. No, not that I understand. Not my understanding is that the majority of black people, we don't need to pay for that experience.
Mhm.
We kind of deal with that degradation every day outside in
Mhm.
the street, especially when it comes to like women. So when it comes to kink and BDSM, you'll see a lot of the men, especially when it comes to like non-people of color, so to speak, right? They tend to be more into that degrading. Like you've had Mistress Smalley on your page, I mean,
Mhm.
on your show, and
Mhm.
she makes bank, bro. She's one of my best friends in the industry. I love Molly, right?
Mhm.
But the majority of her clients are men that want to feel degraded, that want to feel less than, that want to worship somebody and make them feel like they're more important than them. And ain't nothing wrong with that. I love Molly. I want her to get her bag for that. But best believe there are not going to be a lot of black women that want that experience to be done to them.
Mhm.
I don't want somebody to make me feel like shit. I don't want somebody to make me crawl on my knees and act like this or act like that and call me names and things like that because I deal with that shit every day in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form or another. So as a black woman or as a black man or a person that is experiencing certain feelings like that, I want to feel cherished. I
Mhm.
want to feel prioritized. I want to feel cared for. I want to feel like I matter. I want to feel safe. Those are the feelings that I desire to feel when I'm thinking about what my fantasy and my experiences feel like. Yeah, yes, there are going to be some wild parts of my fantasies, of course.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I'm not going to pay nobody to humiliate me, beat me, cause me pain,
Yeah.
and all that other shit. When I talk about desiring polarity, we desire pleasurable things that are more on the sensual part of
Mhm.
things. So I try to teach people that kink and BDSM is not about pain. It's not about degradation. It's not about hurting people or anything like that. It is more about exploring things that feel good to you. And the majority of people would enjoy somebody like myself spanking them because I know how to actually spank correctly.
Mhm.
Somebody would enjoy somebody like me tying them up because I know how to make it sexy. I know how to make it feel good. I know how to make you feel safe. I know how to make you feel confident about what we're about to engage in because I'm going to talk to you about it first. So that is the difference in what I would provide or what I'm talking about or what I'm preaching about rather versus what they're thinking.
So you're a dom
Yes.
and you have subs. Let's tap into the subs first. What psychological aspect will make a sub will want to submit?
Mm, Okay, so I'm gonna clarify something. I don't have subs.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Sorry.
No. I have clients,
Okay.
and they would be the proper term for what they do during the session. It would be they're being my bottom for that moment, right?
Okay.
They're being the person that I'm working on, or you can use the word muse for, so to speak, to if it's even more fitting. But to kind of go back to what you were saying, the thing that would probably make a person want to submit for that moment, because they're being submissive as it relates to in that moment. They're not my submissive, but they're being submissive, if that
Mhm.
makes sense, right? What would draw somebody to that is someone who is usually in a leadership role, someone who's usually making decisions for other people, someone who's always prioritizing other people, putting other person's needs before their own. That person would desire someone to take control for once, as it relates to having the plan, as it relates to creating the environment, as it relates to making sure everything goes according to plan, as it relates to making sure that that person doesn't have to lift a fucking finger. All they got to do is show up. You don't got to set up, you don't got to clean up anything. All you got to do is show up, and everything's going to be about you. So that is what draws a person into wanting to do a session with myself, with somebody like myself, or even another type of dom, where they get the experience to kind of like just enjoy and it be about them. So that's my personal experience on the people that work with me. There are different types of subs that like the idea of doing service. There are different types of subs that like the idea of having different types of dynamics where they're doing things that are just very different. But it's everybody has the right to find something that works specifically for them.
Why would a person want to be a dom?
So for me, I can speak from my
Mhm.
perspective. I love the idea of taking care of other people. I'm a Cancer, so part of my love language is just doing for others.
Mhm.
I love the idea of like acts of service in that way. I've learned that one of my kinks is giving people exactly what they want. I love that shit. And I try to say all the time that I like to give what I want and to receive in return and
Mm.
in return, so to speak. So there are a lot of people that identify a lot of doms that identify as pleasure doms, which basically means that everything that they're doing is focusing on trying to bring you pleasure. So that's part of it. Another thing would just be they're good at it. They like planning. They like the again the look on a person's face when they do something amazing for someone else. Just might be something that called to them. Some people start off as subs and then they turn into doms. Some people have a little bit of both, which are a switch. I am realizing in my big age that I'm very much a switch.
Mm.
Remember I spoke about that polarity. I've been doing this for quite a long time now. And as much as I love the idea of giving a person experience, I am now moving into a phase where I want to receive an experience, or receive more experiences rather. So, that's where that switch kind of plays a part into it.
Mm.
I would love the idea of walking into a space and dealing with the female version of Sir Marvelous. And again, I'm not into being degraded or
Mhm.
humiliated or all of those different things, but the idea of walking into something and like I get to experience all the things that bring me joy and all the things that bring me
Mm.
pleasure. And I don't gotta fucking move. I don't gotta set up. I don't gotta clean up.
Yeah.
All you're gonna do is make me feel good and feed me snacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That shit sounds like a
Sounds
vibe.
like a life.
It sounds like a
Sounds
vibe.
marvelous. Of doms always saying, "Hey, clean up or do this or take out the trash," and that's
Mhm.
found subs as
Servants.
servants. That was my biggest misconception of if I say I'm a sub,
Mhm.
I don't want to be someone's servant.
Mhm.
I just want to be relaxed and you take control.
But both exist.
Okay.
Some people will have those dynamics. There will be a time where like you might, like you said, you're into role play, right?
Mhm.
There might be a time where like 6 days out of 7, your dom is just like all about pleasuring you, Billy. I'm gonna do everything that you like. And then that seventh day, y'all role play where you acting like Cinderella around the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And because it's just fun,
Impossible.
right? You singing the song, everything. You know what I mean? So like that could be a fun way of doing it. Like you gotta understand that sometimes going into a headspace where you are doing something different than what you normally do can be a lot of fun. Being able to turn off or turn on rather a different personality, right? Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, that out of 6 days out of 7, he's taking care of you. It's all about you. And then at 7th, y'all decide to role play, and he's having you clean the house, and he's checking spaces twice. He's going, this is not clean
Mm-hmm.
enough. And again, that could be fun. That could be a challenge.
Yeah.
And now you're begging and you're pleading, you're like, sir, please,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And that is where it could be. But there are some people who really like the idea of their submissives just being in that servitude type of mode. But it's
Mhm.
again, it's about negotiating what works for you. I know a lot of people that love serving. For example, like we mentioned, Mistress Molly, a lot of her subs, excuse me, love the idea of just serving,
Mm,
and that's why it works so perfectly for them. You know,
yeah.
but everything exists out there.
What is the psychological aspect of people that's interested in role playing? Like, where does that come from?
Just being able to be somebody different for a moment, whatever it may be.
Mm,
Maybe you want to get something off your chest in a healthy way. Maybe you just want to just like again turn off that brain. It's so much value in being able to turn off your day-to-day brain, whatever you normally deal with. Like you mentioned, you are usually a person in control. So giving up that control could be something that just feels good. Being able to be a kid again. You know, I never consented to growing up. I enjoyed being a child.
yeah.
I
Yo,
enjoy
I understand why Michael Jackson
Yeah.
opened another Land Ranch
So,
because
yeah,
it was needed.
we lose some of our greatest, creative imagination as a child as we grow up and we learn that life has to be this way and we need to be real and we need to be responsible and we need to be serious and everything is just so fucking serious as an adult. Like you mentioned, rent is high, right? But being able to go into a space where you're able to be something that you're not and just play it out, and it does something for the soul. Like
Mhm.
you're playful again, and that is something that I really want to expand on when it comes to like intimacy. Granted, role playing doesn't always have to lead to sex or something sexual, but if it does, that moment of being playful and laughter and joy, that oxytocin that's released when you share a good laugh with a person,
Mhm.
you know, it bonds you closer. That's why sometimes we can have that person in our life that ain't shit, that literally is always drama. But one thing you love about them is y'all share that a good laugh.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know it's going to be a good time. There's a weird thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or it might have just been an experience that you had with that person many years ago that still have y'all connected because it was such a fun time. Even though now at this big age, you're like, I can't be on that type of
Yeah.
time no more. But it's hard to let that person
Yeah.
go because every time you think of them, you think of a good time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Even if it was a long time ago. So that's the power of sharing a good laugh, sharing a good experience with a person, being able to be silly. And another part of that is being able to be vulnerable with a person. When you're able to be vulnerable and safe with a person, it connects you, it bonds you closer.
Mhm.
So that's another aspect of being able to do role play. There are going to be times you gonna download a script or print out a script of whatever favorite movie or whatever play or whatever you decide to
Mhm.
write down, and y'all gonna get it wrong, and y'all
Yeah.
gonna fucking be laughing like crazy, and it's always gonna be something you
I
can go
never
back
knew
to.
people put I just thought you freestyled and you
You
just did
can,
it. Now you print out the script.
you
Oh,
can,
I'm gonna write a script.
right? Yes,
Oh,
yes,
I
you
can't
can.
wait to get to write it. My
Yeah,
person's gonna be so lucky.
yeah, it's gonna be, and you could then you could go to a play party. You could get more people incorporated. Like, man,
Mm.
yeah,
A
yeah,
play party and oh, I wanna,
yeah.
and that's on my list.
Mhm.
I want to go to Mistress Marley's play party. She
You
was telling me
should,
about it,
you
but
should.
I don't want to participate. I just want to look. Exhibitionist? Did I say it right?
Exhibitionist.
Yes, that word.
Hmm.
I ain't go to school that day. Why? That's when people enjoy having sex outside, right?
That's when somebody doesn't. That's when somebody derives pleasure from the idea of doing things in front of other people.
Now, I done FaceTime some friends and let them watch me do some oral transactions.
Hmm.
I don't mind doing it. I don't mind being watched.
All right. So let me be clear. I want to clarify that definition because people gonna be like real anal about the definition. It's not necessarily somebody that just likes to do things in front of other people, but if you don't mind putting on a show, you're very much an exhibitionist. Like you mentioned, you're a Beyonce. So granted, when you're on stage doing your live show, it's not sexual. Sometimes it could be. I know how
Yeah,
y'all get
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But you don't mind being a center of attention. You don't mind putting on a show. You don't mind being on camera. You don't mind taking pictures. You don't mind calling somebody on FaceTime. Like that doesn't bother you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And you probably would not mind being at a sex party where you're able to, again, whether you choose to participate or not, just exist. Whether you decide to wear a dope ass outfit or be butt ass naked, just exist. And you don't give a fuck because you're free. You know what I'm saying? That is the power of being an exhibitionist, right? There are levels to it, right? Where you could go from just existing to like, I want all the eyes on me. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm.
remember, there's levels. Like, I'm here and I don't mind being naked in front of everybody. I don't mind dancing and singing and putting on a show. And if you're watching, you're watching. And then there's other levels where it's like, I want everybody to watch this shit because that shit gets
Mm.
me riled up.
I
I
can see
like
me
having the
working my
energy.
way up the
Yeah,
chain.
yeah. You
I
know what
can
I'm
see me.
saying? And or there are levels to it where it's like nobody could see you, but you're on the highway and you're touching your partner in the car while they're driving. That's a form of exhibitionism because you're doing things outside in a place that society says that you probably shouldn't or should be a little bit shy or ashamed to do it, right? But it kind of turns you on with the idea that you're doing something in a place that you probably shouldn't. You might take a partner to a supermarket and have them reach for something on the top shelf and put your hand up their skirt or something like that. Like there are so many levels to being able to play on that energy of like we're somewhere we shouldn't be. I mean, we're doing something we shouldn't be doing somewhere we shouldn't be doing it.
I love that.
So-
And voyeurism is when you enjoy watching it.
Yes.
I'm both, God damn it.
So I always tell people that are voyeurs are probably huge nerds. And the reason I say that is because as much as we love the idea, or most people derive pleasure from watching, most voyeurs derive pleasure from watching people engage in pleasure. And that could be via, porn, live sex, reading eroticas, or even listening to sexual stories and stuff like that. But there's another side to voyeurs that doesn't normally get talked about, which is their nerdy side. A big part of the reason we like to watch is because we like to learn. We're interested in learning about things that we might be interested in trying ourselves one day. And it can vary from different things like sex toys to threesomes to group activities to role playing. Like, I just want to see how it's done. Like, how y'all pull that shit off. You know what I'm saying? So a big part of me watching it is like, yeah, I'm turned on by it, but half the time I may not be turned. I just want to see the shit.
Yeah.
I want to see I want to go to the party and see how it is. You know what I mean? So that's part of that voyeurism, wanting to kind of add to that that bank of knowledge, so to speak.
I hate pain.
Okay.
Why do people enjoy the impact play? I saw Mr. Smalley had the guy getting punched in his face. I forgot his name. I can't think about it right now. But I found
what color was he? Or what color did you see through the mask?
Light skin, yeah, light skin.
Okay, so I'm not gonna say all of her souls are white. That would be
he was a light skin dude. His name is something Hoodie. Yeah. And I came across him on my Twitter. I said, interesting.
That could be very much his thing.
Okay.
That could be very much his thing. There are a lot of subs that derive pleasure from a masochist experience, which is like more focused on pain. But there is something to learn or to highlight as it relates to like pushing our limits when it comes to pain under the right context. So context makes all the difference. For example, remember when I mentioned spanking ass while you're hitting it from behind? If I were to just walk up to a person and spank their ass, they probably would fuck me up, right? Because the context is not there and it probably would be painful. But again, if I'm hitting it right and, she's about to experience orgasm and I give a well-placed spanking, it could be like the cherry on top that takes it to the next level with that context. We spoke about the gym earlier. Going to the gym sucks because it fucking hurts. In fact, you actually have to break down your muscles in order for them to grow and for other things to take place, right? The literal act of putting yourself in pain for a greater experience at the end. Something about pushing our body, the limitations of our body feels good and it allows us to grow, especially when we're doing it in a safe environment. A lot of times when people are experiencing, or I should say all the times, when people are experiencing kink, it should be in a safe environment, right? A place where if anything goes a little bit too far, you can check in with a person and just kind of like stop things. And then, like you said, get that aftercare that might be needed, right? But being able to push yourself limitation-based is a very powerful experience, and being able to like build upon it. So for example, if I were to spank someone and they wanted to see how far they can go, I'm not going to start by hitting them as hard as I can. I'm going to start real slow and I'm going to build up incrementally, and I'm going to encourage them and I'm going to give them affirmations and I'm going to tell them how good they're doing, and I'm going to challenge them like, you want to quit, just say you want to fucking quit. And somebody like you would be like, I ain't fucking quitting. Who do you think? You know what I'm saying? Like, again, and that context being there, even if you're somebody that's like right away, you're like, I don't like pain, but I ain't no fucking quitter either. You know what I'm saying? I'm from New York. Like, you don't fucking
real
quit.
Nigga shit.
You don't quit, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? At the end, you're like, damn. But for the moment, you had fun. It felt good. And also, those endorphins are being released in your system when you're experiencing moments of pleasure and or pain. So knowing that that context there makes all the difference, you know?
These floggers look like they hurt, so that's why. Do women tend to use floggers on men too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And these floggers are actually one of my most playful floggers. These feel fucking amazing. You could touch it if you want. Yeah.
Like, but when they hit you, it don't like. Can I do?
Yeah, it don't hurt.
It don't hurt.
So
Interesting.
I always tell people that my style is a mixture of being intimidating on purpose and also very sensual. A lot of what I do, like I've used fire play, I use knife play, I use electric play. I have spiky, floggers and things like that.
Spiky?
Yes.
Bomba
Yeah,
clock.
I should have brought them. I'm sorry. We'll do it for the live show. But 2025, right? But I have things that are intimidating on purpose because I like to provide the mind fuck of you thinking something's going to be painful, but then when I use it on you, you're like, that shit ain't even that bad. But when I'm coming towards you again, because it looks scary, it provides that mind fuck. Your brain can't separate what you've always been told. Your brain has always said, don't fuck around with fire, especially us as black folk. We don't fuck around with no fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I forgot about the fire. What the hell's wrong with you? You want to be a firefighter?
Exactly. But when you feel it, when you experience it and you realize this shit feels good.
But what about the mistakes?
With me, I don't want to say that, knock on wood, but we don't make mistakes because we are trained professionals. We are going to do, and we're going to have things in place to make sure that we minimize any opportunity of something like that happening. Also, the chemical compound and the accelerant that we're using is bringing down the temperature of the flame. What does that mean? I normally have a canister with me, and it's usually filled with majority water and some alcohol. And when we light that, the temperature of that flame is actually less than the typical fire that you would get from a lighter or something like that. So yeah, I should have brought it with me. I owe you for the live show.
Yes,
we're gonna turn up.
Because you know what? I'm thinking fire. I'm thinking about Michael Jackson, that Pepsi commercial. No, sir, you won't catch me like that.
So the best way I could explain it, being that I don't have it, is just look at it as a magic trick. When you understand the magic behind what's happening, it's more of an illusion than it is actual thing. Most of the times when I have a knife, when I'm doing knife play, my knives are incredibly dull. I buy dull knives on purpose. They just look scary on camera or in person. But when you touch
like that, what do they get for the thrill of?
The same thing they get from a roller coaster ride. We like the idea of feeling like we about to die, but we also want to feel like we're safe. No, but we also want to know that we're safe.
Yeah.
We also want to know that this roller coaster was serviced recently and that it's safe. Some people like the thrill of going, bungee jumping and skydiving. But as much as they like that idea, they also want to know that the person they skydiving with is a trained professional. And how many times you did this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that like I'm actually going to survive this particular experience, but I also want to feel like I'm risking a lot. So it's kind of like that living on the edge, the adrenaline rush.
So to close out the class, when people come to the dungeon, do they get to find out where are they into? Whether if it's knife play, fire play.
Yes.
Y'all better book a session.
Yes. So
save y'all coin. They said you take afterpay.
So
he does?
I do. I take a little bit of everything. Yeah, when it comes to the actual sessions, we have a long conversation before we have a long conversation before the actual session takes place. And then when we get to the actual dungeon, that's when we get to kind of explore some of the things that we spoke about. So yes, to answer your question, you will learn a lot.
Y'all better book him.
Absolutely.
Y'all better book him. Where can the people find you?
So sirmarvelous.com is the best place to go to locate everything Marvelous. I highly recommend joining or signing up on my email list because, as you know, social media tends to shadow ban us when we talk about things like this. And I might be here today on Instagram and gone tomorrow. So if you want to be able to stay up to track with everything, whatever new pages, whatever new events and new offers that I have, I definitely want you to sign up for that email list. I have a book out right now called Foreplay 101, which is 101 ideas of things that you can do for foreplay. So we spoke about foreplay earlier. So if you're like, I don't know what a good idea for foreplay is, well, now you got 101 things and it's literally only $7. So now you have no excuses to invest in your pleasure. All right.
What's the website for that?
sirmarvelous.com. Yes.
101. I'm about
101
to use one tonight. Right. God damn it.
Also, Depending on when this episode is coming out, I have a going away party. I definitely want you to
Okay,
pop up
okay.
to. So it's going to be in Brooklyn on November 9th. So it's going to be celebrating my transition from New York City to Atlanta. I'm gonna be an Atlanta boy now.
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah,
okay.
I'm excited about that.
Listen, and you're gonna get a dungeon in Atlanta?
Yes, yes. I'm gonna open up another dungeon in Atlanta.
I've been
So
hanging out in Atlanta a lot, so we could go out there and pod
yeah,
too.
we could
And
definitely do that.
I wanna. Oh, this will be Patreon content if you're okay with it.
Mhm.
Just tour a dungeon and
Yeah.
see what it looks like.
Please come through. You can come to the New York dungeon and just tour it for Patreon. It's fine.
What if we're going on a field trip?
Field trip.
Well, thank you again for coming. I appreciate you. This was a great conversation. I would love to have you on again. I learned so much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Class is now over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was a
That was
dope
good.
episode. I loved it.
I appreciate that, man. I
Thank you.
definitely need to be studied.